Michael, thanks for your time. Great to be speaking with you. And if I could really start off with what you've called this, the biggest victory claim that you've, described it as. So, just wanted to really understand this, what does it really mean for bilateral ties henceforth? And now that, this is sort of, tracking back from the punitive 50% that was slapped on India, this kind of reset, what does it really indicate, which now brings it down to 18%, the tariff quantum that is?
Yeah, well, it's been quite a year for U.S.-India relations, right? I mean, it's hard to believe it's almost been a year since President Trump hosted Prime Minister Modi at the White House for that summit, and they agreed to pursue this trade deal. And then we had a number of months of problems in the relationship, and there was not a trade deal. The U.S. inked a number of deals with a number of countries quite early on. We didn't have one with India, even though, the U.S. and India really got a head start because, Prime Minister Modi was one of the first foreign leaders to come to Washington to meet with Trump for his second term, and they pledged to pursue that deal. I think that you had tough negotiators on both sides. You had an Indian side that put its foot down and had red lines that it was not willing to violate, and that meant that, among other reasons why there was not a deal, over the last few months. The fact that you got one now, I think it can be attributed to a number of factors. One being, I think the Trump administration got concerned when India concluded the deal, the FTA with the EU last week. I think that this was mentioned before. Ambassador Gore, I think, has come to New Delhi with a singular mission of getting this relationship back on track, and that includes pushing the two sides to get a deal. He's someone who has a lot of influence in Washington, is very close to Trump. That certainly helps. But yeah, this is a game changer for the U.S.-India relationship, just because it had been floundering for so long. It's a confidence-building measure. I think that it can provide some momentum for the two sides to come to the table and to start discussing other issues that have constrained relations. I think it can hopefully help the U.S. win back some of the trust that it squandered in New Delhi over the last year. And maybe, who knows, we'll get to a point where the Quad will come back and there'll be a Quad Leaders Summit, a much delayed Quad Leaders Summit, which of course India is meant to host, which could mean potentially President Trump could go to India sometime this year. And that would all be good for the U.S.-India relationship.
Or perhaps it would. And let me now also welcome on board Evan Feigenman as well. He's an Asia expert. He joins in on the show right now to talk about exactly what this deal would mean to further strengthen ties between both India as well as US. But Evan, if I could just come to you and, pick up on the point about oil, this entire spat or trade-off, if you will, on Russian oil. The White House is very clear that this deal is going to require India to completely seize out and not just reduce Russian oil purchases. Given India's historic strategic autonomy, is it realistic to expect New Delhi to fully walk away from its energy partnership with Moscow, given that it's a lot cheaper?
No, personally, I don't think so. And I think the devil is going to be in the details. I have a hard time, as a longtime observer of this, believing that the government of India is going to publicly make any commitments related to Russian oil explicit. And I'm prepared to be proven wrong on that. But I think the absence of details speaks volumes. I think there's a larger political question related to that, which is that one of the great achievements that the United States and India had undertaken over the last couple of decades on a fairly bipartisan basis on both sides was to avoid having third country relationships to which either side objected bleed back into productive U.S.-India bilateral relations. As I've said over the years, the United States has long objected to India's relations with Iran, with Myanmar, with Russia. India, in turn, has objected to aspects of the American relationship with China, with Pakistan. That's part of the relationship, but it has never been allowed to bleed back into debilitating and degrading the bilateral relationship in the way that it has in recent months with the layering on of an additional 25% tariff related to Russian oil. So I think that's a precedent that's spectacularly unproductive and will come back to bite the relationship later on because it really walks away from some of the understandings. There's also the issue of where the other oil is going to come from. The president obviously has Venezuela on his mind, but you're talking about $60 to $80 billion in capex that's going to have to be invested into Venezuela to modernize its oil. So